The colony ship drifted through space like a dying whale. Inside the eternal dawn, 50,000 people waited to die. The engines were dead. The life support systems flickered on and off. And the radiation storm was coming closer with every passing hour. Commander Jiho stood on the bridge and watched the sensors. The storm was massive, bigger than any planet. It glowed red and angry on the screens. In 6 hours, it would hit them. In 7 hours, everyone aboard would be dead. Any response to our distress calls? Jiho asked. The communications officer shook her head. Her name was Minji, and she had been sending emergency signals for 3 days straight. Nothing, sir. The Draxite fleet received our message but didn't respond. The Hive Mind Collective said they're too far away. The Luminarchs said it's not their sector. Jiho closed his eyes. Not their sector? That's what they all said. The big powers of the galaxy didn't care about humans. Humanity had joined the Galactic Assembly 200 years ago, but nothing had changed. They were still weak, still poor, still ignored. Keep trying, Jiho said. Someone has to answer. But he didn't believe it anymore. Down in the medical bay, Dr. Minji worked on the injured. The engine explosion had hurt dozens of people. She moved from bed to bed, doing what she could with limited supplies. A little girl grabbed her hand. Are we going to die? The girl asked. Minji wanted to lie. She wanted to say everything would be fine, but she was tired of lying. I don't know, sweetie, but we're trying very hard to save you. The girl nodded and closed her eyes. She was only 8 years old. On the other side of the ship, Pilot Yun checked the emergency engines for the 100th time. They were completely destroyed. The explosion had torn through 3 decks. Even if he had parts, even if he had a week, he couldn't fix them. This is bad, he muttered to himself. This is really, really bad. He had flown through asteroid fields. He had dodged pirates. He had landed ships in storms that would tear apart lesser pilots. But he couldn't outrun a radiation storm with no engines. 6 hours until impact. Then 5.5. On Earth, Ambassador Deho sat in his office at the Galactic Assembly building. He had been calling every species he knew, begging for help. None of them cared. The Eternal Dawn was just another human ship. Humans died all the time in space. It wasn't important. Please, Deho said to the Draxite representative. You have ships in that sector. You could reach them in time. The Draxite scales rippled with what might have been amusement. Ambassador, we have more important concerns. A colony ship with engine failure is not our priority. Perhaps you should build better ships. The communication cut off. Deho put his head in his hands. 50,000 people. 50,000 men, women, and children. And nobody in the entire galaxy cared enough to help. 4 hours until the storm hit. Then something changed. Sir, the communications officer shouted. We're receiving a transmission. It's not from any of the major powers. It's from the Talvek Union. Jiho frowned. He barely knew anything about the Talvek. They were a small species, barely holding on to a few worlds. What do they want? They're offering help, sir. They have 3 ships in the area. They say they can reach us in time. Jiho felt hope for the first time in days. Tell them yes. Tell them we accept any help they can give. The Talvek ships arrived 2 hours later. They were old, battered warships that looked like they had seen too many battles. But they were moving fast and they were coming to help. Admiral Velkara commanded the Talvek fleet. She was amphibious with smooth blue skin and large eyes. Her species had evolved in water, but they could breathe air too. She looked at the human colony ship on her view screen and made her decision. Attach the towing cables, she ordered. We'll pull them out of the storm's path. Her second officer looked worried. Admiral, we have reports of pirates in this sector. If we stop to help, we'll be vulnerable, and pulling that ship will slow us down significantly. Velkara's eyes narrowed. So we should let them die? I'm just saying it's dangerous, Admiral. Everything worth doing is dangerous, Velkara said. Attach the cables. The Talvek ships moved into position. They were so much smaller than the Eternal Dawn, like tugboats pulling an ocean liner, but they locked on and started pulling. Slowly, painfully slowly, the colony ship began to move. 1 hour until the storm hit. Then the pirates arrived. They came out of nowhere. 6 small warships looking for easy prey. They saw the Talvek ship struggling to move the colony ship and they attacked. The pirates knew the Talvek couldn't fight back while they were towing. It was a perfect opportunity. Detach the cables. Velkara's second officer shouted. We need to defend ourselves. No, Velkara said calmly. Keep pulling. All weapons return fire. The battle was brief and brutal. The Talvek ships fired everything they had while still pulling the Eternal Dawn. One Talvek ship took heavy damage. Another lost its shields completely. But they kept pulling. On the colony ship, Jiho watched in horror as the Talvek fought for them. "They're sacrificing themselves," he whispered. "For us. For people they've never even met. 17 Talvek warriors died in that battle, but they killed or drove off all the pirates, and they kept pulling. 30 minutes until the storm hit. 20 minutes. 10 minutes. And then they were clear. The Eternal Dawn was out of the storm's path, pulled to safety by 3 battered Talvek ships. The radiation storm roared past, angry and deadly, but it missed them. 50,000 people were safe. 2 days later, the Eternal Dawn limped into a repair station. Commander Jiho requested permission to come aboard the Talvek flagship. He needed to meet Admiral Velkara face to face. They met in a conference room. Velkara was smaller than Jiho expected, but her presence filled the room. Translator devices hung in the air, converting their words. "Why?" Jiho asked. "Why did you risk everything for us? Your government is struggling. You're barely holding on to your own worlds. You had every reason to ignore us like everyone else did. Why did you help?" Velkara was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke, and her words were simple. "Because it was right. Because no one else would. Because letting people die when you can save them is wrong, no matter what it costs you." Jiho felt something break inside him. Not sadness. Not anger. Something else. A determination that burned hotter than any star. He clasped Velkara's webbed hand in both of his. "I swear to you, on my life, on my world, on everything humans hold sacred, we will remember this. We will repay this debt. If your people ever need help, if you ever face danger, humanity will answer. No matter what it costs us, no matter how long we have to wait. We will remember." Velkara didn't know it then, but she had just made humanity's first real friend in the galaxy, and humanity took friendship very, very seriously. The incident barely made the news. The Galactic Assembly filed it as a minor rescue operation. The major powers didn't even notice. They were too busy with their own concerns. But on Earth, things were happening. Ambassador Deho started filing strange requests for trade agreements. Dr. Minji began studying Talvek biology and sending encrypted reports to Earth's government. And Commander Jiho was reassigned to Strategic Operations Command with a single order. Remember everything about the Talvek Union. Learn everything about the Draxide Empire and the other powers that ignored their distress calls. Humanity was patient. Humanity could wait, and when the time came, the galaxy would learn a simple truth. Humans never forget a favor, and they never forgive being ignored when they needed help the most. 5 years passed. The galaxy forgot about the rescue of the Eternal Dawn, but humanity remembered everything. In the secret shipyards hidden deep in the Oort cloud, far beyond Pluto, engineer Jiwon worked day and night. She was young, only 32, but she was brilliant. The government had given her unlimited resources and one simple order: build ships that could fight the major powers and win. "How's the prototype?" Her assistant asked. Jiwon smiled. She stood in front of a warship that was bigger than any human vessel ever built. It was angular and mean-looking, covered in weapons. "The Vengeance is ready for testing, and we have 46 more under construction." The assistant whistled. 47 dreadnoughts. "That's going to cost us everything." "It already has," Jiwon said quietly. "Earth's economic reserves are almost empty. We've been selling everything we can, cutting every program, borrowing from every ally. Half the planet is on emergency rations, but we'll have our fleet." She touched the hull of the ship. "The Talvek saved 50,000 of our people. This is the least we can do." Across the solar system, Intelligence Officer Seojun sat in a small cafe on Mars. He looked like a normal businessman, drinking coffee and reading news feeds. But he was much more than that. 5 years ago, he had been assigned to infiltrate the major galactic powers. It had seemed impossible. The Draxites were paranoid. The hive mind didn't trust outsiders. The Luminarchs barely noticed physical beings. But Seojun had learned something important. Everyone underestimated humans. They thought humans were weak, stupid, harmless. So they didn't watch humans carefully. His communicator buzzed. Messages came in from his agents across the galaxy. Humans working in Draxite supply chains. Humans employed at hive mind trading posts. Humans doing maintenance on Luminarch research stations. Nobody paid attention to them. Nobody thought they were dangerous. Now Seojin knew everything. He knew where every Draxite fleet was positioned. He knew their supply routes. He knew which corporations supplied their military. He knew their battle tactics and their weaknesses. Knowledge is power, Seojin muttered to himself. And we have so much knowledge now. On Earth, at the Galactic Assembly, Ambassador Daeho continued his quiet work. For 5 years he had been buying things. Not weapons, not ships. Something more subtle. He bought shares in corporations, mining companies, medical suppliers, food distributors, every company that supplied the Draxite military. Daeho slowly bought control through shell companies and fake investors. The Draxites never noticed. Why would they watch a weak species like humanity? Now, after 5 years of careful work, humans controlled 40% of the Draxite Empire's supply chain. With a single command, Daeho could collapse their entire war machine. Ambassador, the Talvek situation is getting worse, his aide said. Daeho nodded grimly. The Talvek Union was dying. The Draxite Empire had spent 5 years slowly conquering their worlds. 4 of 7 core planets were already occupied. The Talvek people were being pushed to extinction, and the Galactic Assembly did nothing. The Draxites were too powerful, too economically important. Nobody wanted to anger them over a minor species. How long until the Draxites issue their final ultimatum? Daeho asked. Intelligence says 2 weeks. They'll demand complete surrender or they'll orbital bombard the Talvek homeworld. Daeho's face was calm, but inside he was furious. The Talvek had saved 50,000 humans. They had risked everything for people they didn't know. And now the galaxy was going to watch them die. Send a message to General Sunwoo, Daeho said. Tell him it's time. We're done preparing. General Sunwoo commanded Earth's strategic operations. He was old now, almost 70, with gray hair and scars from the border wars. He had been a soldier his entire life, and he knew war better than anyone alive. For 5 years he had been training Earth's military. Not just the usual training, special training, brutal training. Training for a war against enemies more powerful than humans had ever faced. Are we ready? President Yuri asked him. They stood in the war room looking at maps of the galaxy. The Draxite Empire was huge, covering dozens of systems. Humanity controlled only 3 systems and had limited colonies in 5 more. We're as ready as we'll ever be, Sunwoo said. But ma'am, we're still weaker than them. If this goes wrong, Earth could be destroyed. President Yuri nodded. She was young for a president, only 45. But her eyes were hard. General, what do you think they'll do to the Talvek if we don't help? They'll exterminate them. And what did the Talvek do when we needed help? Sunwoo smiled slightly. They saved us without hesitation. Then we have no choice, Yuri said. We gave our word. Humanity keeps its promises. Give the order. 2 weeks later, the Draxite Empire issued their ultimatum. Admiral Velkara, now Supreme Commander of the Talvek Defense Fleet, read it with a heavy heart. Surrender or die. She had 48 hours to decide. Her fleet was tiny now. Most of her ships had been destroyed over 5 years of losing battles. She had maybe 60 warships left against the Draxites' thousands. It was hopeless. Then her communications officer started shouting, Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from Earth. It's marked urgent priority. Velkara frowned. Earth, the humans? What could they want? A face appeared on her view screen. It was Commander Jiho, but he looked different now. Older, harder, and he wore the insignia of a fleet admiral. Admiral Velkara, Jiho said. Do you remember what I promised you 5 years ago? Velkara's heart skipped a beat. She remembered. Of course she remembered. But surely he didn't mean... We're calling in that debt, Jiho continued. Not from you, for you. Humanity stands with the Talvek Union, and the galaxy is about to learn what happens when you ignore human gratitude. Admiral Jiho, you can't, Velkara said. The Draxite Empire will destroy you. They're too powerful. Jiho smiled, and it wasn't a friendly smile. 5 years ago, we were too weak to help ourselves. But we've been busy. We've been preparing. And now we're ready. The transmission cut off. Velkara stared at the blank screen in shock. Then every screen in the Galactic Assembly lit up. General Sunwoo appeared wearing his full military uniform. Behind him stood President Yuri and the entire human government. People of the galaxy, Sunwoo said. 5 years ago, the colony ship Eternal Dawn sent distress calls to every major power. None of you answered. You let 50,000 humans drift toward death because we weren't important enough to save. The Talvek Union answered. They risked everything. They lost 17 warriors saving people they'd never met, and we promised we would remember. Today, the Draxide Empire has issued an ultimatum to exterminate the Talvek people. So today, the unified human government formally declares war on the Draxide Empire. We invoke Assembly Charter Article 47, the right of debt defense. Any nation that interferes will be considered hostile. The galaxy went silent. Nobody could believe what they were hearing. Humanity, weak, insignificant humanity, was declaring war on a galactic superpower. In the Draxide High Command, the generals laughed. The humans think they can fight us? They have no fleet, no weapons, no chance. Then the intelligence reports started coming in. 47 unknown warships entering Talvek space, massive energy signatures, weapon systems that matched nothing in any database. The generals stopped laughing. Admiral Jiho stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Unyielding Det. Around him, 46 more ships just like it moved through space in perfect formation. Behind them, hundreds of smaller warships, Earth's entire military assembled in secret, ready for war. Open a channel to Admiral Velkara, Jiho ordered. Velkara's face appeared on the screen. She was crying. "You came," she whispered. "You really came. We promised," Jiho said simply. "Humans keep their promises. Now let's show the Draxites what happens when you threaten our friends." Captain Yuna commanded one of the new dreadnoughts. She had been training for 5 years, learning how to use weapons the galaxy had never seen before. Her crew was ready. They were angry. They had all lost friends or family to alien indifference over the years. "Target the nearest Draxite fleet," she ordered. "Prepare railguns. Load fusion missiles. Power up plasma lances." Her weapons officer smiled grimly. "Ma'am, this is going to be beautiful." Officer Minho handled tactics for the fleet. He had studied Draxite battle strategies for 5 years. He knew how they thought, how they fought, every formation they used. "They'll try to use their numbers to surround us," Minho said. "They always do. But we won't let them close. We'll kill them from long range. We'll use precision strikes. We'll make every shot count." "And if they get close?" someone asked. Minho's eyes were cold. "Then we show them that humans are very, very good at close combat." The Draxide Empire mobilized its fleets. 400 ships moved to crush the impudent humans. They expected an easy victory. They were about to learn they were very, very wrong. Ambassador Deho sat in his office and sent one final message. It went to 34 corporations across the galaxy. The message was simple: execute protocol debt repayment. Within minutes, every human-controlled supply company stopped shipments to the Draxide Empire. They dumped all Draxide investments. They shared confidential data with the Talvek Union. The Draxide economy started to collapse. Humanity had been preparing for 5 years, learning, building, planning, and now it was time to collect a debt written in blood and gratitude. The Draxide Armada moved through space like a swarm of metal locusts. 437 warships, each one larger and more powerful than anything humanity had ever built. Or so the Draxites thought. High Commander Krask stood on his flagship bridge watching the human fleet appear on his sensors. He was old for a Draxite, his scales dark with age. He had fought in 20 campaigns and never lost. "How many ships do the humans have?" he asked. 47 large vessels and approximately 200 smaller ones, his sensor officer replied. "We outnumber them almost 2 to 1. Krask laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. "This will be a short war. Prepare to attack. We'll crush them in one battle and then move on to Earth. The humans need to learn their place." But Officer Minho, watching from the human fleet, smiled. "They're doing exactly what we expected. They think numbers are everything. Let's teach them otherwise." The battle began at extreme range. The Draxites closed in, confident in their superior numbers and firepower. They had fought countless wars. They knew every tactic. They were certain of victory. Then the human dreadnought Unyielding Det fired its first railgun shot. The projectile moved at a significant fraction of light speed. It crossed 1,000,000 kilometers in seconds. The Draxite flagship's shields lit up, absorbing the impact. But the shields flickered and died. The second shot punched straight through the hull. "What was that?" Krask screamed. "No weapon has that range." The third shot turned his flagship into an expanding cloud of debris. High Commander Krask died without understanding what killed him. Captain Yuna's voice was calm as she gave orders. "Target the next capital ship. Fire when ready. Reload time is 30 seconds. Make every shot count." Her crew worked like a machine. They had trained for this. Every movement was precise. Every shot was calculated. The unyielding debt was killing Draxite capital ships from a distance they couldn't even return fire. They're trying to close the gap, Officer Minho reported to Admiral Jiho. They want to get close enough to use their weapons. Then let's give them something else to worry about, Jiho said. Launch fusion missiles. Full saturation barrage. Thousands of missiles launched from the human fleet. They spread out in a cloud, each one seeking a different target. The Draxite point defense systems opened fire, shooting down missiles by the hundreds, but there were too many. The first fusion missile that got through vaporized a Draxite cruiser. The second destroyed a carrier. The third, fourth, and fifth turned a tight formation of destroyers into glowing gas. The Draxites started to panic. This wasn't how battles were supposed to go. The enemy was supposed to close in for a fair fight. The enemy wasn't supposed to kill you from ranges you couldn't even shoot back. All ships advance at maximum speed, the new Draxite commander ordered. We need to get close. Officer Minho watched them come. They're breaking formation. They're angry now. Angry enemies make mistakes. All ships prepare for close combat maneuvers. The human ships moved like dancers. They were smaller than the Draxite vessels, more maneuverable. Pilot Hyun, now commanding a destroyer squadron, showed what human reflexes could do. His 6 ships dove straight into a Draxite formation. The Draxites tried to track them, tried to predict their movements, but humans didn't follow normal patterns. Hyun's squadron twisted and turned in ways that violated every tactical doctrine. Targeting their engine sections, Hyun said calmly. His ships fired plasma lances at point-blank range. The superheated energy beams cut through Draxite shields like paper. One by one, Draxite ships lost power and drifted helplessly. They're flying like madmen, a Draxite weapons officer shouted. That's because we are a little mad, Hyun replied over an open channel. You threatened our friends? Bad idea. The battle raged for 6 hours. The Draxites kept trying to use their numbers advantage. They kept trying to overwhelm the human positions. But every tactic they tried, the humans had an answer for. When the Draxites grouped their ships for concentrated fire, the humans targeted them with long-range railguns. When the Draxites spread out, the humans used their speed to pick them off one by one. When the Draxites tried to retreat, the humans pursued relentlessly. Admiral Velkara watched from her flagship in shock. The Talvek fleet fought alongside the humans, but they barely needed to fire. The humans were destroying the Draxite armada with cold, calculated efficiency. They studied us, she realized. For 5 years, they studied the Draxites. They know every move, every tactic, every weakness, and it was true. Officer Seojin's intelligence work had given humanity every advantage. The humans knew which ships had weak shields, which captains were cautious and which were aggressive, which formations the Draxites preferred. The Draxites knew nothing about humanity's capabilities. They had ignored humans for too long. Captain Yuna's unyielding debt had destroyed 11 capital ships. Her weapons were running hot, her shields were damaged, but her crew never stopped. A Draxite dreadnought twice her size turned to face her. They're targeting us, her weapons officer said. Heavy fire incoming. Then we go through them, Yuna said. All power to forward shields. Collision course. Fire everything as we pass. The 2 ships raced toward each other. The Draxite dreadnought fired every weapon. Plasma burned across space. Missiles filled the void. The unyielding debt shook and shuddered, but its shields held. Then they passed within 100 meters. The unyielding debt fired every weapon at point-blank range. Railguns, plasma lances, missiles, everything. The Draxite dreadnought split in half, both pieces tumbling through space. Damage report, Yuna ordered. Forward shields are gone. Hull breaches on decks 4 and 7. Casualties in engineering. But we're still flying, ma'am. Yuna smiled grimly. Good. Find us another target. By hour 8, the Draxite armada was broken. Of 437 ships, less than 40 remained. They tried to flee, but human destroyers hunted them down. Only a handful escaped to carry news of the disaster back to Draxite space. The humans had lost 3 ships. Only 3 Admiral Jiho broadcast on all galactic channels. His face was calm, but his voice carried across the stars with absolute authority. The Talvek Union showed us mercy when we needed it. The Draxite Empire showed us contempt. There is no species in this galaxy more patient than humanity. We waited, we prepared, and now we collect. This is not conquest. This is not expansion. This is gratitude written in fire across the stars. Touch the Talvek again and we will reduce your empire to dust. On Draxite Prime, the capital world of their empire, panic spread. The unbeatable armada was destroyed. Humans, weak, insignificant humans, had done the impossible. The Draxite Supreme Council held an emergency session. They have weapons we've never seen, one council member said. Ships we can't match. They knew everything about our tactics. How is this possible? Another asked. They were nobody 5 years ago. Because we ignored them, the military chief said quietly. We ignored them and they used that time to prepare. We dismissed them as weak and they used that against us. Ambassador Deho activated the second part of his plan. Every human-controlled corporation stopped all shipments to the Draxite Empire. Medical supplies, food, rare earth minerals for ship construction. Everything. Within days, the Draxite economy was in chaos. Their military couldn't get replacement parts. Their factories ran out of materials. Their people started going hungry. We need to make peace, the economic minister said at the council meeting. The humans control too much of our supply chain. We didn't even know it until now. Peace? The military chief roared. After they destroyed our fleet? We'll call our allies. The Kryn hegemony owes us favors. The Zultan Confederacy has a defense pact with us. Then call them, the supreme leader said coldly. Because right now we're losing a war to a species we thought was harmless. Across the galaxy, other powers watched in shock. The Hive Mind Collective held emergency consultations. The Luminarchs analyzed human tactics with their vast computational networks. Smaller species started sending secret messages to Earth asking about alliances. The balance of power was shifting. Humanity had declared they were done being ignored. On the unyielding det, Captain Yuna stood at her viewport, looking at the debris field. Thousands had died here, most of them Draxites. She felt no joy. War was ugly even when you won. Do you think it's over? Her weapons officer asked. Yuna shook her head. No, they'll call their allies. This is just beginning. Admiral Jiho knew it too. He called a meeting with his senior officers and Admiral Velkara. They gathered in the conference room of his flagship. The Draxites will bring their allies, Jiho said. Intelligence says the Kryn and Zultan are mobilizing their fleets. We'll be facing thousands of ships. Can we win? Velkara asked. Officer Minho pulled up tactical displays. If we fight them here, no. But if we pick the battlefield, if we make them come to us, we have a chance. Where? Jiho asked. Minho smiled. Earth. We make them attack our homeworld. We use every advantage our solar system gives us. And we show them what humans do when we're defending our home. Jiho nodded slowly. It's risky. If we lose, Earth is destroyed. We won't lose, Captain Yuna said firmly. Because we're not just fighting for territory. We're fighting for our promise to the Talvek. We're fighting for every time the galaxy ignored our suffering. 3 months after the Battle of Draxus Prime, the largest fleet in galactic history assembled at the edge of human space. The Draxite Empire had called in every favor, every treaty, every alliance they had. The Kryn hegemony brought 400 ships. The Zultan Confederacy added 300 more. Combined with the remaining Draxite forces, the Allied Armada numbered 1,200 warships. Their target was simple. Earth. Destroy humanity's homeworld. And the war was over. Commander of the Kryn fleet, War Leader Thax, studied the star map showing Sol system. They have nowhere to run now. We'll burn their world and end this foolishness. Beside him, Zultan High Admiral Kess nodded. The humans made a mistake fighting above their weight. They got lucky once. They won't be lucky twice. The Allied fleet entered hyperspace, heading for Earth. They expected to find a desperate, frightened enemy. They expected pleas for mercy. They expected surrender. They didn't understand humans at all. On Earth, President Yuri stood before the planetary assembly. Behind her, a massive view screen showed the approaching Allied Armada. The assembled representatives were quiet, faces serious. Everyone knew what was coming. My fellow humans, Yuri began. Our ancestors survived ice ages when the world froze. They survived plagues that killed millions. They survived wars that burned continents. They survived the first terrible years in space when every mission could mean death. We did not crawl from Earth's oceans and reach for the stars just to bow before tyrants who punish gratitude. We did not become a spacefaring species just to let bullies threaten those we call friends. She paused, letting her words sink in. Let them come. Let them see what happens when you threaten the homeworld of a species that conquered its own planet. before reaching space. Let them learn what humans do when we're cornered. We are not the strongest species. We are not the oldest. But we are the most stubborn. We are the most vengeful when wronged. And we will show them why you never ever threaten someone a human considers family. The assembly erupted in approval. On the streets below, millions of humans watched on public screens. Fear was there, yes, but also anger. Also determination. The galaxy had ignored them for centuries. Now the galaxy would pay attention. In the asteroid belt, Commander Jihoon oversaw the final preparations. For 3 months, human engineers had been hollowing out asteroids and filling them with weapons. Thousands of rocks that looked natural on scanners were actually missile platforms, railgun batteries, and drone carriers. How many do we have ready? Jihoon asked his chief engineer. 3,000 combat asteroids, sir, plus conventional minefields and automated defense platforms. The entire belt is a weapon now. Jihoon smiled. Good. When they enter the system, they'll think they're safe. Then we'll show them that humans know how to use our environment. Near the sun, Engineer Jiwon made final adjustments to her greatest creation. Orbiting humanity's star were 200 satellites, each one massive and covered in solar collectors. Together, they formed a network that could focus solar radiation into coherent energy beams. Are we ready to test it? President Yuri asked over the comm. Jiwon checked her readouts one more time. Yes, ma'am. We can turn the sun into a weapon. Multiple beams independently targeted, each one powerful enough to vaporize a capital ship. How many shots? As many as we need. The sun isn't running out of energy anytime soon. Yuri smiled grimly. Humanity's star defends humanity. I like it. Admiral Jiho commanded the defense of Earth from the bridge of his flagship. Around Sol system, every human warship waited. The fleet was smaller than before. They had taken casualties at Draxus Prime. But the ships were battle-tested now, and the crews were veterans. They outnumber us 10-1, his tactical officer said. They outnumbered us 2-1 last time. Jiho replied. We still won. This time we have home advantage. And we have something they don't. What's that, sir? Desperation. Cornered animals fight hardest, and humans are very dangerous when cornered. On her ship in orbit, Captain Yuna prepared her crew for battle. The unyielding debt had been repaired and upgraded. New weapons, stronger shields, but the ship bore scars from the last battle, and so did the crew. Are you scared? Her weapons officer asked quietly. Terrified, Yuna admitted. But fear is good. Fear keeps you sharp. Remember why we're fighting. The Telvex saved 50,000 of our people. Now we save their entire species. That's worth being afraid for. The Allied Armada dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Sol system. 1,200 warships bristling with weapons, confident in their power. War leader Thax looked at his sensors. The human fleet is clustered around Earth. Standard defensive formation. They're making this easy. Should we offer terms of surrender? Someone asked. No, High Admiral Kess said. They chose this. They declared war on their betters. Now they pay the price. The Armada moved forward, accelerating toward Earth. They passed Neptune, then Uranus, then Saturn. Nothing opposed them. The humans were waiting at Earth, too frightened to come out and fight, or so the Allies thought. They entered the asteroid belt and everything changed. The asteroids exploded. Not all of them, that would have been obvious. Just a few dozen at first, releasing clouds of missiles and drones. The Allied fleet's point defense engaged, shooting down the threats. Then more asteroids opened fire. And more. Suddenly the entire asteroid belt was a war zone, with weapons firing from every direction. How many weapons do they have hidden here? Thax screamed as his shields flickered under the onslaught. Commander Jihoon watched from his hidden command center inside a large asteroid. Fire everything. Don't let them get through the belt intact. Hundreds of Allied ships took damage. Shields failed. Hulls were breached. The mighty Armada was being torn apart by rocks and automated systems. Push through, High Admiral Kess ordered. We can't let asteroids stop us. The Allied fleet fought its way through the belt, leaving 50 destroyed ships behind. They were angry now. Embarrassed. Ready to destroy Earth and be done with this annoying species. Then Engineer Jiwon activated the solar weapon network. Beams of concentrated solar radiation, each 1 kilometers wide, lanced out from near the sun. They moved at light speed. There was no warning, no time to dodge. The first beam hit a Kryn capital ship and vaporized it instantly. The second burned through 3 Zoltan cruisers. The third turned a Draxite dreadnought into expanding gas. What is that? Thax stared at his sensors in horror. They've weaponized their star? More beams fired. The Allied fleet tried to scatter, tried to find cover. But there was no hiding from the sun. G1 and her team targeted the largest ships first, the ones that posed the greatest threat. The sun is shooting at us, a Zoltan captain said in disbelief. The humans taught their sun to fight. 90 ships died before the Armada moved out of optimal range. They were past Mars now, approaching Earth's orbit. Their fleet was down to about 1,000 ships. They had lost 200 vessels to automated defenses and a weaponized star, and they still hadn't faced the human fleet. Admiral Jiho watched them come. Now we show them what human ships can do. All vessels attack formation. For Earth, for the Talvek, for everyone the galaxy ever ignored. The human fleet surged forward. They were outnumbered 5-1 now, but they had advantages. They knew the system perfectly. They had backup weapons platforms throughout Earth's orbit. And they were fighting for their homeworld. The battle was brutal. Ships exploded on both sides. The void filled with debris and bodies. Captain Yuna's unyielding det fought 3 enemies at once, shields failing. Hull breached in a dozen places. Her crew kept fighting. We can't take much more, her engineer reported. Shields are at 5%. Then we ram, Yuna said calmly. Target that Zoltan dreadnought. Full speed. Captain, that's suicide. Maybe. But we'll take them with us. She opened ship-wide comms. All hands, this is the captain. It's been an honor serving with you. Prepare for impact. The unyielding det accelerated toward the enemy dreadnought. The Zoltan ship tried to turn, tried to evade, too slow. The human ship slammed into its side at full speed and detonated its fusion core. The explosion lit up space like a new sun. Both ships died. But Captain Yuna died protecting her world, and she took 1,000 enemies with her. The battle raged for 72 hours. Humans fought with a desperation that shocked the Allied forces. Every ship that was crippled would ram. Every station that was damaged would overload its reactor. Humans didn't surrender. Humans didn't retreat. They fought until they won or until they died. Then on hour 70, something changed. New ships entered the system. Talvek warships, every vessel the Union could spare. Admiral Velkara's voice came across all channels. You saved us once. Now we return the favor, because that's what friends do. The Talvek fleet, outnumbered and outgunned, threw themselves into the battle with suicidal courage. They knew they would probably die. They didn't care. The humans had risked everything for them. The least they could do was fight beside them. The sight of Talvek ships fighting alongside humans broke something in the Allied forces. They had expected to crush a weak species. Instead, they were being destroyed by 2 species who cared more about friendship than their own survival. War leader Thax looked at his tactical display. His fleet was down to 300 ships. 6 months after the Battle of Sol, the galaxy was a different place. The old certainties were gone. The major powers that had ruled for centuries now walked carefully, watching their words and their actions. The Draxite Empire had surrendered within the 24-hour deadline. They had no choice. Their economy was in ruins, their fleet was destroyed, and their allies had abandoned them. The once proud empire signed the treaty with shaking claws. Ambassador Deho read the terms to the Galactic Assembly. His voice was calm, but everyone heard the steel underneath. All occupied Talvek worlds will be returned immediately. The Draxite military will be reduced to a defense force of no more than 100 vessels. War reparations will be paid to both the Talvek Union and the unified human government over the next 50 years. The Draxite High Command will stand trial for war crimes. A Draxite representative, one of the few who hadn't been arrested, spoke quietly. These terms are harsh. Your people tried to commit genocide, Deho replied. They attacked our homeworld. They killed millions. These terms are more merciful than you deserve. Be grateful we are allowing your species to survive. The representative said nothing. There was nothing to say. The Draxite Empire had gambled on destroying humanity and lost everything. But Daiho wasn't finished. However, humanity does not seek to create permanent enemies. Once the terms are met, once justice is served, we will help rebuild the Draxite economy. We will share technology for peaceful purposes. We will show you that there is a better way than conquest. The assembly was stunned. The humans had won, had every right to be vengeful. Instead, they were offering reconciliation. It was unprecedented. On Talvek Prime, President Yuri met with the Talvek Council. The Talvek homeworld had been freed from Draxite occupation. Talvek refugees were returning home. It was a time of celebration, but also mourning for all who had died. Council leader Marek, an old Talvek whose scales were faded with age, clasped Yuri's hands. "Your people saved us. We can never repay this debt," Yuri smiled. "You already repaid it. You saved the Eternal Dawn when nobody else would. You showed humanity that kindness still exists in this galaxy. Everything we did because of that." "Then let us make it formal," Marek said. "Let our two species be bound together, not as creditor and debtor but as equals, as family." The Treaty of Two Worlds was signed 1 week later. It created a permanent alliance between humanity and the Talvek Union. Military cooperation, economic integration, technology sharing, cultural exchange. The two species would rise together or fall together. Engineer G1 led the technology exchange program. She met with Talvek engineers and scientists, sharing human manufacturing techniques, computer systems, and medical technology. In return, the Talvek shared their knowledge of sustainable energy and biological systems. "Your people are brilliant," a Talvek engineer told G1, "but you approach problems so differently than us. You're more aggressive in your thinking." G1 laughed. "Humans have always been a bit crazy, but crazy sometimes works. Together I think we'll create amazing things," and they did. Within months, joint human Talvek facilities were producing new types of ships, more efficient power systems, and medical treatments that benefited both species. The alliance was becoming more than political. It was becoming symbiotic. Admiral Jiho and Admiral Velkara were named joint commanders of the Allied Defense Force. They had fought together, bled together, and lost friends together. The bond between them was unbreakable. "Do you think the other powers will try again?" Velkara asked as they reviewed the new fleet deployments. "Maybe," Jiho said, "but not soon. We hurt them badly. They need time to recover, and by the time they're ready, we'll be even stronger." He pulled up a star map. 23 smaller species have asked to join our alliance. They've seen what we do for our friends. They want that protection. Can we defend that many? We'll have to, because that's what we told the galaxy we would do. We told them that humans remember kindness. Now we have to prove we protect those who trust us. Velkara nodded. "Then we'll build more ships, train more crews. The Talvek will contribute everything we can." In the Galactic Assembly, Ambassador Deho stood to speak. The chamber was full for the first time in years. Everyone wanted to hear what humanity had to say. For centuries, this assembly has been controlled by the strongest, the wealthiest, the most powerful. Smaller species were ignored. Their concerns were dismissed. Their pain was invisible to those who sat in comfort. The human species was ignored when we sent distress calls. 50,000 people would have died because we weren't important enough. But one species answered. The Talvek Union, barely holding on to their own survival, risked everything to save strangers. We fought a war because of that kindness. We risked our homeworld because we believe loyalty is the strongest force in the universe. And now we're here to tell you that the old ways are over. He activated a holographic display showing the proposed Charter of Rights and Recognition. Every species, no matter how small, will have a voice in this assembly. Every distress call will be answered. Any attack on the weak will be met with the combined might of those who remember what it means to be vulnerable. This is not a request. This is a requirement. Vote yes and we build a better galaxy together. Vote no, and you tell us you learned nothing from this war. The debate lasted for 3 days. The major powers argued. They negotiated. They tried to weaken the provisions. But in the end, they voted yes. They had seen what humans did when crossed. Nobody wanted to face that again. The charter passed with 92% approval. The Galactic Assembly would never be the same. Officer Seojin, who had spent years spying for humanity, was reassigned to diplomatic intelligence. His job now was to watch for threats and opportunities, but also to build relationships with species humanity had never paid attention to before. "It's strange," he told Officer Minho over drinks. "We spent so long being ignored. Now everyone wants to talk to us." "Everyone wants to be our friend," Minho smiled. "Some of them genuinely respect what we did. Others are just afraid. The important thing is figuring out which is which. And the ones who are afraid, we show them they have nothing to fear if they treat others fairly. We show them that humans make better friends than enemies." 20 years passed. The galaxy healed. The scars of war faded, though they were never forgotten. The Human-Talvek alliance had grown to include 47 species. Some were tiny, barely spacefaring. Others were mid-sized powers looking for protection and friendship. Together they formed the third largest bloc in the galaxy, respected and influential. On Earth, in the city of New Geneva, a monument was built. It showed Admiral Velkara and Commander Jiho clasping hands, their faces determined and hopeful. The inscription was in both human and Talvek languages. To those who showed mercy when mercy was rare. To those who gave aid when aid was costly. Humanity remembers, always. Below that, carved in black stone that would last 10,000 years, were 17 names. The Talvek warriors who died saving the eternal dawn. Their sacrifice had changed the galaxy. President Yuri, now retired and gray-haired, visited the monument often. Young people would sometimes ask her about the war, about why humanity risked everything. "We did it because someone showed us kindness," she would say, "and because we wanted to live in a galaxy where kindness matters, where helping others is rewarded, not punished, where being weak doesn't mean you're worthless." Did we succeed? She would smile. Ask the 47 species who joined us. Ask the hundreds of smaller species who know their distress calls will be answered now. Yes, I think we succeeded. Admiral Jiho also retired, taught at the military academy. Young officers from dozens of species came to learn from the man who had defeated the Draxide Empire. In his final lecture before retiring completely, he told them something important. War is always terrible. Even when you win, you lose things you can never get back. We lost good people. We lost Captain Yuna and thousands like her. We nearly lost Earth itself. But sometimes you have to fight, not for conquest, not for glory, but for the simple reason that letting evil win is worse than fighting it. The Talvek taught us that kindness is worth protecting, so we protected it, and will keep protecting it, for as long as humanity exists. A student raised their hand. "Sir, what if someone threatens the Alliance again? What if there's another war?" Jiho's old eyes grew hard. "Then they'll learn the same lesson the Draxites learned. Humans never forget a favor. We will defend our friends with everything we have. And our revenge shakes worlds." On Draxite Prime, the new generation was growing up. The Empire was gone, replaced by a democratic federation. The children learned about the war in school, about what their grandparents had done and the terrible price they paid. A young Draxite student asked their teacher, "Why did we lose?" "We were stronger. We had more ships." The teacher, a veteran of the Battle of Draxus Prime, looked at the student with sad eyes. "We lost because we underestimated them. We thought strength was measured in weapons and numbers, but the humans understood something we didn't." "What?" "That war is not won by those with the most weapons. It is won by those with the most reason to fight. We were fighting for pride and conquest. The humans were fighting for gratitude, for friendship."